Welcome to Scrum Masters Elite_UK. Join us as we explore objective insights and thoughtful perspectives on rugby. Subscribe to the channel and be part of the journey.
The news surrounding Vusi Moyo's opportunity to make his Springboks debut made me reflect on something far more meaningful than simply seeing a young player start a fly half. What stood out most was the way one of the world's leading rugby nations builds trust in his next generation. To me, this is not merely a coaching decision by Rassie Erasmus, but also a powerful example of a long-term philosophy centered on developing people. In elite sport, where results are constantly under pressure, giving a largely inexperienced player the chance to start always involves significant risk. Yet instead of focusing solely on the risks, the Springboks coaching staff chose to recognize Moyo's potential and create an environment where he could succeed.
What impressed me even more were the comments from Schalkberger and Jean de Vries. Neither claimed that Vusi Moyo was guaranteed to become a star, nor did they place unrealistic expectations on him. Instead, they offered a balanced assessment of the factors that could help him perform well. They pointed out that playing alongside experienced teammates, such as Cobus Reinach, Damien de Royende, and Jesse Creel, would significantly reduce the pressure on him. Listening to those observations reminded me of an important truth: individual talent flourishes best within a strong team environment. That became my first personal takeaway. In life, we often focus so heavily on individual ability that we overlook how important the surrounding environment truly is. Even highly talented people can struggle without the right support, while young individuals placed alongside experienced mentors often learn faster, gain confidence, and develop more sustainably. Perhaps that is why the world's best teams consistently strive for the right balance between youth and experience rather than relying exclusively on one or the other. I also appreciated Berger's point that Moyo does not need to think about playing the full 80 minutes. At first glance, that may sound like a simple tactical observation, but the more I considered it, the more meaningful it became. Success does not always mean carrying every responsibility from beginning to end. Sometimes, doing your own job exceptionally well during the time you are given is already a significant achievement.
Beginning. They fear making mistakes, being judged, or disappointing others. Yet the reality is that no one becomes accomplished without first experiencing uncertainty and learning through early opportunities. The goal is not to prove you are better than everyone else, but to make the most of every opportunity to learn and grow. Another thing I noticed was how the Springboks prepared their bench. Having Manny Libbok and Damian Willems available was not intended to increase pressure on Moyo, but rather to give him reassurance. Knowing that experienced teammates are ready to step in allows a young player to express himself freely instead of constantly worrying about making mistakes. This reminded me of workplaces and educational environments. A healthy organization is not one where people constantly fear being replaced, but one where everyone understands they are working toward a shared objective. When mutual support exists, individuals are more willing to use their strengths without constantly operating in a defensive mindset. I was also impressed by the return of Herschel Jantjies. Spending 3 years outside the national team is a long time for any professional athlete. Many people might assume that the opportunity had passed forever. Yet through consistent performances and continued professionalism, he earned another chance to prove himself. That story reinforces another important lesson in sport. As in life, difficult periods do not necessarily close every door. There are moments when we feel left behind, but if we continue working hard and maintain high standards, opportunities can return. Persistence often matters far more than impatience.
Many young people place enormous pressure on themselves to be perfect from the very. I also appreciated Jean de Vries' comments about the Springboks continuing to monitor players competing overseas. That reflects a principle of fairness. Opportunities should depend on what you demonstrate, not simply on where you play. To me, this is one of the most encouraging messages from the entire story. In many professions, people worry that moving into a different environment may limit future opportunities. Yet if they continue producing quality work and maintaining professional standards, their abilities are eventually recognized. That encourages people to focus on improving themselves, rather than worrying excessively about external circumstances. At the same time, Rassie Erasmus continues to demonstrate his commitment to building squad depth. A truly successful national team cannot depend on only a handful of star players. Sustained success requires continually giving new players opportunities to gain experience. If coaches rely only on familiar veterans out of fear of failure, the team inevitably faces challenges once that generation reaches the end of its peak years. That lesson extends well beyond rugby. Investing in the next generation requires patience. The rewards may not appear immediately, but if organizations fail to begin today, they will struggle to achieve continuity tomorrow. As supporters, I also believe this story reminds us to maintain balance when evaluating young athletes. One outstanding performance does not instantly make someone a legend, just as one disappointing game should not erase a player's potential. Athletic development is always a long-term process filled with successes, setbacks, and valuable lessons. In today's social media era, young players face enormous pressure from both praise and criticism. Supporters can contribute to a healthier environment by judging players based on their overall development rather than isolated moments.
What I appreciate most about this story is not trying to predict how well Moyo will perform against Wales. Instead, I admire how former Springboks discussed his situation using experience, technical knowledge, and genuine trust rather than emotional reactions or unnecessary hype. They recognized both his strengths and the challenges ahead, making their opinions balanced and credible. After reflecting on everything, I realized that rugby's greatest value extends beyond tries, victories, or trophies. The deeper lesson lies in how a team builds trust, creates opportunities, prepares young people for success, and still maintains exceptionally high standards. The Springbok success is driven not only by outstanding individual talent but also by a system that knows how to identify, develop, and support players throughout their journey. The greatest lesson I personally take away is to prepare thoroughly so that I am ready whenever opportunity arrives. I may not always have the most experience or the most impressive achievements, but if I continue learning, improving, and maintaining a growth mindset, opportunities will eventually come at the right time. When they do, the most important thing is not to prove perfection, but to calmly demonstrate the abilities developed through consistent preparation. For the wider community, the stories of Vusi Moyo, Herschel Jantjies, and the Springbok selection decisions deliver an inspiring message. Sustainable success begins with trust, fairness, and long-term development. When young people are given opportunities at the right time, experienced individuals are willing to mentor them, and everyone is evaluated according to merit and commitment, the entire group becomes stronger. That lesson extends far beyond rugby and can be applied equally in education, the workplace, and everyday life.
Thank you for being with Scrum Masters Elite _UK. See you in our next objective rugby analysis. Don't forget to subscribe.